Happy New Year and welcome to SuperHouse, the first of 2020. I am, once again, the man who knows too much about Batman. This is Ben Wan.
And I live in a world of indeed. This is Andrew, and I'm once again... Oh, you already did that part. Anyway, welcome to SuperHouse. It's a new year, everybody. Yippee!
Woo! And I know I promised you guys Batman Begins, but to procrastinate even further, we're going
It will come, we swear. We're working on visuals and stuff, man. Give us a break.
We're going to begin Batman Begins by going into the actual training that Batman went through in the comics. Now, I'm going to encompass all of the comics, not just the comics before Batman Begins or after Batman Begins. Everything from the Silver Age, which is where they first started exploring this, into Rebirth. So that's pre-Crisis, post-Crisis, New 52, and Rebirth.
And all the training changes a bunch.
It does. And so what I decided to do, because I've looked at a lot of videos about the training of Batman, and I realized that there's some stuff that they miss certain comics, and I wanted to put together my own comprehensive chronology. And what ended up happening was I turned it into my own Grant Morrison, everything is canon.
Your head canon.
My head canon, which is this ridiculous 20-year journey that he takes going from like 10 when he's 10 years old to him donning the suit at like 30, which is about his age when he dons it in Batman Begins. Not in the comic, but in Batman Begins, because it just felt more realistic.
Let me tell you something, Ben.
Yeah.
I can't wait to step into the dojo.
All right, well, before we step into the dojo, we'll just go chronologically. I will also bring up the different comic issues in case you guys want to check them out and look them up for yourselves. A lot of these will be ones that you probably will not have heard of before. So this is going to be good for all of you guys who are really into the comics, have a DC Universe subscription, and a lot of these are on there. So
do your homework, kids.
Do your homework, kids. Or just listen to this because I did it all for you.
This is the homework. This is the audio. This is the audible for Batman training.
Okay.
Welcome to it.
Welcome to it. So obviously we're going to have to start off with the deaths of Thomas and Martha Wayne because, come on, like that's what started all of this. So I'd say Bruce is around 10 years old at this time. Sometimes he's 6, sometimes he's 8. I think 10 is a little bit realistic. 6 is a little young for him to get started on some of this stuff because we're going to cover a little bit of what he did afterwards. Like, how do you go from the kid who's in the alley who's mourning over the deaths of his parents to him thinking, oh, I'm going to turn myself into something.
Right.
It's just a few panels in the original Origin where he's just like, he makes this vow.
When does the phoenix rise from the ashes?
So I'm going to jump to the Rebirth version of this.
What? That's all the way to now.
I know, because he recontextualized the vow.
Oh, okay.
Which is that Bruce Wayne, in his grief, tried to slash his wrists.
Okay, that was new to Rebirth?
Yeah, that was new to Rebirth.
Okay.
Tom King introduced this in a story called I Am Suicide, where he sort of recruits his own Suicide Squad to go up against Bane. And while he's doing this, he writes a letter to Catwoman, and he admits that when he was about 10 years old, he had a blade between his wrists and was thinking about to do it when he thought of a better way for him to commit suicide in a way, which is to devote his life to warring on criminals and dying that way as opposed to taking his life now.
So you like this new addition to Bat lore?
Yeah, it does create, because like it does, like, how would a 10-year-old react to such a huge trauma in his life?
And he thinks it's his fault, 100%.
I think it's his fault or having the survivor's guilt or the loss of that.
Right.
Just jumping immediately into the vow does seem like a 1930s type of thing, but
yeah, I shall become a bat.
Yes, but it's in this scenario. I'm like, I kind of like this recontextualization of him seeing it, which is why it's called I Am Suicide.
Okay,
he writes those words to Catwoman in terms of like, this is what it's all about. This is why I dress up as the bat, and I know at any point that I could be dead, but this is how I choose to go out if I were to do that. So
okay.
Bruce Wayne then makes this solemn vow to his parents that I swear by the deaths of my parents that I will avenge them by warring on all criminals. And that's vow is what leads him into taking on this journey. So
the wrist slitting's like a
it's almost like too dark.
It's like a I don't know why I associate this, but like the 90s, just like being dark and like listening to fucking I don't even know what. Like,
yes.
Even though The Cure's the 80s, but you're a 90s kid listening. Never mind. Don't worry about it.
So Bruce then, after the suicide attempt, this is covered in All-Star Batman by Scott Snyder, but he gets taken into the Arkham home in Innsmouth, Massachusetts. So I guess it's like under the same Arkham name, but it's in a different state. And there he meets another traumatized kid by the name of Harvey Dent.
Okay.
And neither of them really know each other's names. They're just given numbers, but it's significant because Harvey Dent's father is abusive, and Bruce and Harvey make a pact that Harvey will kill the man who killed Bruce's parents, and Bruce, in exchange, will kill Harvey's father.
Okay.
Again, we're into some really dark shit
some
for a 10-year-old.
dark kids.
This is why I put it at 10 as opposed to 6.
Honestly, kids are darker than we probably
give
them credit for as well. So
what ends up happening, though, is Harvey temporarily goes home for a bit, and his father attempts to turn over a new leaf and melts down the coin that he used to use to beat Harvey. He used to flip a coin and say, like, if it lands on this side, I'll beat you. And if it lands on this other side,
is that new as well? Like the melting of the coin?
The melting of the coin is new. The father beating him based off of the flipping of the coin has been there since, I want to say, the late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, it's longer than I expected.
Yeah.
All right.
So this whole abusive father thing has been a part of Harvey's life for a while, and we can dive deeper into that when we get to Two-Face February. But this is about young Bruce, and young Bruce finds out that Harvey's father has redeemed himself. He's even reminted the coin into having 2 heads, as opposed to having a regular coin where tails meant that Harvey would get beaten. So the 2-headed coin is a symbol that he won't beat Harvey again. So Harvey backs out of the deal because his father had a second chance. And Bruce thinks that that's incredibly naive, and he shouldn't have done that. But it kind of forms Bruce's idea of justice. He returns home, and this is where I'd like to think that Alfred thinks that Bruce should have an outlet for himself and has him undergo acrobatic training by John Grayson.
Alfred wants to do acrobatics at first instead of martial arts.
Well,
he thinks it's too violent.
Yeah, because he's
a proper British lad.
Yes. So he has him go to the Haley's Circus. This is, again, not in the comics, but something that I pitched in our Batman Forever deep dive.
Okay, right.
Where he takes him to the Graysons, and their young teenager John Grayson is the one who's like, sure, I'll train this kid in acrobatics. And he takes him under his wing and says, hey, in the Grayson family, we have different ranks to it, and they're named after different birds because we're the Flying Graysons. Right. So you'll start off in the rookie position, which is Robin.
So Bruce Wayne is a Robin at first.
Bruce Wayne starts off as a Robin. Yeah,
that's cool.
And he kind of has the red and yellow and green outfit to be part of it as he's learning it. So this ties into a later comic that I'll talk about where Bruce Wayne was revealed to have been the first Robin. It's just I've now recontextualized it so it's less dumb for that to happen. And where it makes more sense.
Stupid.
It makes more sense later on for Bruce to feel attached enough to adopt John Grayson's son, as well as that son to have the name of Robin as the rank for him as a vigilante, that he'd be okay with passing down to Jason Todd and Tim Drake and Damian Wayne, all those people, because I always felt that if Robin was it had this huge impact on his life, it was something that his mother nicknamed him, which is like a lot of the interpretations. Why would Dick Grayson be okay with Jason Todd and Tim Drake all just taking that name just because it's the name of Batman's partner?
Right.
But if it was just like, no, this is our way to honor the Graysons, is we're adopting that as our system, then I would excuse it a little more. So Bruce Wayne,
even Batman has had the rank at one point.
Yeah,
so
even
it makes sense. Yeah.
So
just keep passing it on and on and on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to further his outlet, as revealed in Batman Annual Number 13, Alfred decides to give Bruce a little bit of acting training. Again, another outlet. Different
theatricality and deception.
Exactly. And it makes sense because Alfred used to be an actor in the comics, and Bruce will need those acting skills not only for being Bruce Wayne, the Playboy, but also for when he goes undercover as Matches Malone or as different criminals. Batman does a whole bunch of other disguises. You could also say around this time he learns how to use makeup and disguises, which is where a man named Barrett Keene comes in. He was revealed in Detective Comics number 227 that he trained Batman or helped Batman out with makeup.
This is the first Ra's al Ghul type of character, like fighting mentor type.
Not necessarily a fighting mentor type, but just somebody who taught him makeup and disguises.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I could definitely like have that more in the Matt Reeves. I know we always talk about that,
Yes.
but in the Matt Reeves movie or like in the movies,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, of course, more detective work is the main thing, but then like, yeah, if he's like does the theatricality and deception, but
Right.
not in the bat suit, like
Exactly.
actually dress up as somebody else or something, that'd be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, continue, Ben.
Right. So he has all these outlets, but it's still not enough because he's still this angry kid. So this is where I go into an incident that actually is covered in Gotham season 1.
Let me put a pin in this real quick too. So this, what's his name? Buster? What's his name?
Barrett Keene. Yes.
Barrett Keene. So this guy teaches him how to basically dress up as like a dignitary or whoever the fuck and go to a party and like be that guy.
Well,
is that the
taught
skill
him,
set?
Makeup disguises. I think Alfred is the one who teaches him the actual acting.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Barrett Keene is basically mentioned in Detective Comics 227. This is around the Silver Age era. So in that version, they were probably thinking that Batman learned this while he's like in the cowl sitting in a classroom or something. So like that's how I envision it. I'd like to recontextualize it again to make it that he was maybe an fellow actor that Alfred knew who helped out in just helping his friend's adopted son.
But it is to impersonate somebody and to get away with it in the public.
Well, I think Bruce is able to use that skill, but it's originally just for the theater to be like, well, maybe Bruce can be like an actor so that he can express his emotions.
I gotcha.
Because of the fact that like he's such a withdrawn
Alfred's
child.
still helping the boy.
Yes.
Master Wayne?
So this all comes
Are you a member of the fire brigade? Keep going.
An episode of Gotham called The Mask covers a very interesting point where Alfred kind of has to step in a different way. So in it, Bruce goes back to school after grieving over the loss of his parents and encounters a fellow boy there. It's Tommy Elliott in the show, but it's a little weird to me that that's Tommy Elliott because Tommy Elliott in the comics is supposed to have been best friends with Bruce.
Right.
But whatever. It's in the show, Tommy Elliott is like this disturbed bully who wants to know more and more about death and the deaths of Bruce's parents and specifically how his mom died. And Bruce punches him or slaps him, and Tommy Elliott in response has him and his posse obviously beat up on Bruce.
Okay.
Because Bruce doesn't know anything at this point.
Okay.
So Bruce shows up with bruises to Alfred, and Alfred's like, what the hell happened? And Bruce's like, I don't want to talk about it. They beat me. And Alfred drives him to the Elliott estate and gives him his father's watch and points to the door in the episode. And Bruce takes the watch and goes up to the door. He knocks on it. Tommy Elliott emerges and he's like, what the hell are you doing here? And Bruce is like, we have some unfinished business. And he puts the watch around his knuckles.
Okay.
And he punches the kid repeatedly until Alfred stops him.
I think I saw this episode.
Yeah, and it's one of the best ones in terms of Bruce's development. And Tommy Elliott is just like, he tried to kill me, and Alfred's like, that's right, he tried to kill you, and you remember, I almost let him try. And he walks away, and so it establishes Alfred as the enabler to be like, I will not stand the fact that this piece of shit kid insulted my friend and his wife.
This
who
is
are now
first
dead.
season, right?
This is first season.
I think I saw this episode. Yeah,
it's good. And at the end, Bruce is like, I'm so angry all the time. Will it ever go away? And Alfred's like, I don't know. And Bruce looks at him and he's like, Alfred, can you teach me how to fight? And Alfred's like, yes, I can. And he has no idea what he's just started. So
right.
It's one of my favorites. So this is where I bring in Gotham a little bit. I think that's a great way to sort of transition Bruce into wanting to fight. Given that there's a bully character, I like Alfred kind of starting him off on it, but he wouldn't necessarily be, it wouldn't be enough to turn him into the vigilante we know, who knows like 100 different martial arts.
That's the thing. I was just thinking that, like, it seems like Alfred may be stereotypical, but just judging by geography and age group and all that, he would probably teach fencing, firearms, and like Western style boxing.
Western style boxing is pretty much what's covered in the show too.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I don't necessarily see him in the dojo with a
Not
gi
yet.
and teaching
Alfred's,
Bruce. Yeah,
Alfred's just not that guy, man.
yeah, he's not. So,
he's not that guy at all.
but it does get us
Ra's al
into
Ghul and all that shit comes
yeah.
in.
So we'll cover that soon. But Bruce
Isn't
is
there a teacher in Japan too?
there will be. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get there.
Oh, yes.
Alfred starts taking Bruce around the
Yes,
world, and we go into a storyline from the new Legends of the Dark Knight, number 38 through 40 is where we have like this very young Bruce Wayne, maybe a year or so out from the death of his parents, and they're going all over the world. Bruce learns some more advanced fighting moves from a courier in London. He goes to Central America where he observes like these spider monkeys, and he's reading on like books on lockpicking. So he's trying to find all these different interests to deal with his grief. But they go to Thailand, and he ends up rescuing this one girl named Michaela. He kind of develops a crush on her, but Michaela is in trouble because she and her father are in trouble with this sort of corrupt police department. And she needs help to reunite with her father. So the whole story is about Bruce and Alfred helping her reunite. And Bruce brings up, like, I want you to teach me how to disappear.
Okay.
Based off of what I saw what you guys do. The whole, like, disappearing act that Batman's famous for, it's established that he wanted to get training from that. So Bruce actually spends some extra time in Thailand with Michaela and her father to learn how to disappear before they end up taking off and leaving the country.
Okay.
So that's the next step in his development. He returns home. He goes back to trying to learn some more fight stuff and realize he wants to learn more. So this is where I place in his meeting with Ted Grant, who's one of the greatest boxers ever. And Bruce goes under a different name and pays him tons of monies for a week's worth of lesson just to learn how to take a punch.
Okay.
And that's established in Robin number 31. It's a flashback where Bruce says that to Ted Grant.
Okay.
And Bruce may or may not know at this point that Ted Grant is secretly the vigilante Wildcat.
Okay, that's cool.
But
he's just getting punched by a wildcat.
He's just getting punched by a wildcat when he's like 13 or so.
Just to like harden his internal organs.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got calluses on my liver.
So that moves us then into he's around 14. And he develops
his
an interest.
liver has healed.
His liver has
then.
healed. His teeth he now has those dentures from the Aronofsky Year One script.
Veneers or whatever. Yeah.
That his
I forgot he had dentures in that script.
Yeah, because remember his teeth are knocked out.
God, that's so good.
Because he smiles and there's no teeth, and then he just makes.
It's like that
for
moment
himself.
where he's asleep in the boardroom in Batman Begins or Dark Knight.
Dark Knight.
It's like it's so realistic and funny, but it's even more gritty because it's the teeth.
Yeah.
There's a certain grittiness to that realism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we now move into the first comic that ever that covered Batman's training, which is Detective Comics number 226.
Okay.
And that's where it was
What's
established.
the year on this, by the way?
Detective Comics 226.
Do you have that? Is this like we're talking like 80s, 70s?
Oh, we're talking way earlier than that. We are
50s?
talking 1950. Hold on. Let me just verify it.
He is looking it up, everybody. So
I thought it would show up now. I was wrong.
226 is
1955.
1955, the year my mother was born.
Yes.
Into this world.
My mother was born the year after.
The year. Oh, indeed.
Yes. A story written by Edmund Hamilton called When Batman Was Robin. And that's the one
cool.
that established that Bruce Wayne wore a Robin suit. Now, why did he wear a Robin suit? Well, he wanted to disguise himself because he really wanted the tutelage of a detective in the Gotham City Police Department.
I really wanted to fill a draft on my above my
on
knees.
my bare legs.
My
yes.
bare legs. This is when he didn't even have pantyhose, right? This is whenever he just had.
He had bare legs and pixie boots.
He had pixie boots, bare
and
legs,
that
and
green
some
Speedo.
green Speedo.
And he was 14 at the time. We're supposed to be in his teens, so he's a developing boy right now. But he wants to get the attention of this legendary police detective named Detective Harvey Harris. So another Harvey after Harvey Dent and Harvey Bullock, but Bullock wasn't around at this point.
True.
But he dons this outfit because he doesn't want this guy to discourage him from learning detective stuff. So he dons this outfit, helps save Detective Harris from a criminal named Stanton, and is like, hey, I want to learn from you. And during this whole time, there's like this back and forth where Harris is trying to figure out Bruce's identity, like who's behind the suit, while Robin/Bruce is trying to find ways to throw him off.
Okay.
So there's all established in the Silver Age comic. He also learned some more stuff about boxing and fingerprinting from Harris himself, and this is also covered in the first volume of the Untold Legend of the Batman, where it's a little bit updated. But at some point, Harris, I'm going to contextualize this again, we find out that Bruce had multiple costumes as a kid before settling on being Batman. This is sort of unknown. So not only was he
pretty
Robin,
cool. I like that.
but he also develops a different persona because the Detective Harris, in my version, sends Bruce/Robin to investigate something that's going on in Smallville.
Okay.
So
that's a long ways, man. If you're going from like what's supposed to be New Jersey, maybe, of
to
Gotham
Kansas.
to Kansas.
Yeah. So
I guess Bruce got the money, so whatever.
Yeah. World's Finest number 84 establishes that Bruce goes to high school, or not even, goes to like early high school with Clark Kent and Lana Lang to sort of investigate the Superboy that's going on. And while he's there, when crime happens, he decides to take on a different persona, and that persona is called the Flying Fox.
Okay.
So in my version, Bruce decides to take on the Flying Fox persona so that no one can connect him to the Robin in Gotham.
Gotcha. And he's not Batman yet.
He's not Batman yet. Again, he's like 14 here.
A bat hasn't flown into his window.
Right. But he develops a friendship.
Not yet.
Yeah, he develops a friendship with that Clark Kent, figures out that he's Superboy. And
Superboy. Okay.
He's
but
Superboy.
not Superboy. He's a boy before. I gotcha.
Yeah, this is when, you can say in the Silver Age it was Superboy when Superman was basically stopping crime
As a boy.
just as a boy.
I gotcha.
But you could also go with a Smallville post-crisis version where maybe it was just Clark Kent doing stuff with his abilities without a costume, and Bruce caught on to it. But either way, Bruce and Clark know each other in this version, and Bruce later on would encounter a killer called the Zodiac Killer, not related to the real-life Zodiac Killer. This is weird.
Oh,
but
man.
A Zodiac Killer who appears to be connected to his parents' deaths. So this is where Bruce goes apeshit and changes his persona to the Executioner. This is in
while in Kansas.
Yes, this is why it's called Superboy. This is from Superboy number 182. It has Superboy trying to help Bruce, who is trying to grapple with his grief and take down the man who he believes killed his parents. He only later on, after taking on this Executioner persona, he later on realizes that this is the wrong man, and he ends up he doesn't bring him to justice, but he knows that's not the right guy.
Okay.
So this is the very weird Silver Age into Bronze Age period where they had these types of stories of weird ass continuity where you're just like, wait, Bruce Wayne used to have this other costume and wanted to kill somebody, and Superboy helped stop him. So that's all weird and shit. But he decides to, you know what, there's a lot more that I have to learn. So he forges documents allowing him to quit school and leave the country, again at 14.
Right.
And go on this global quest to become a vigilante even further. So Bruce decides to go to very different colleges, as covered in, I think, Detective Comics 574. He goes to Cambridge. He goes to Sorbonne. He goes to the Berlin School of Science. He even goes to Gotham University. But he tries to understand. Bruce goes to several colleges during this time. Because he's dabbling. He's going to Cambridge. He's going to Sorbonne. He's going to Berlin School of Science. Even Gotham University. But he's doing this because he's gotten this taste of vigilantism, right? Okay. So he wants to understand more of the criminal mind and how it works. So he takes courses in criminology and psychology. Now, here's the thing. You don't want Bruce Wayne, rich kid, to have been associated with learning so much about crime, because he knows that he's got to have a different costume.
Right.
He's got to have this different persona. So he deliberately pretends to be disinterested and bored and falling asleep in classes.
Right.
In order to pick up this knowledge. And if he ever decides that he has real questions, this is what's covered in Detective Comics number 574, he uses the acting skills he learned from Alfred and the makeup skills he learned from Barrett Keene to disguise himself as a different student.
Okay.
As a nerdy student, to then ask for the real meat of the questions.
And at this point, how old is Bruce Wayne again?
Bruce Wayne is like 15 at this point.
15, I gotcha.
So Bruce Wayne to the rest of the college is like reeking of money and superiority, and nobody likes him, which is just what he wants. But then he takes on this persona of this nerdy kid trying to ask questions, and the professors love him. And if he really wants to gather knowledge, he even practices breaking into the professors' offices.
That would be a whole deal, though. Like, to be a kid coming in, you have to maybe pay somebody to be his parents when he enrolls and shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's a whole process.
Yeah, well, no, he would just he wouldn't enroll himself as a different student. He would just be a different student in the lecture hall who would just be auditing or something, and the guy wouldn't know the wiser, but he wouldn't like enroll.
And this
under
is like a
name.
rich kid boarding school type situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, as covered in the Untold Legend of the Batman, at one point he has a professor named Amix Rexford who brings up how the law isn't always adequate.
Okay.
For justice, which kind of plants the seed in Bruce. Maybe I don't become. Maybe this vigilantism is the way to go, and not becoming a police officer or a formal type of law enforcement.
Okay.
During the way, he ends up meeting his first love, who's Julie Madison, as established in the comics. It's
high school sweetheart.
Yes. In Secret Origins number 6 in the 80s, it's established that he met Julie Madison at college when they were doing a production of Hamlet. Bruce was playing Polonius, and she was like, "Why don't you play Hamlet?" And Bruce is like, "I want to play the character roles.
Okay.
I don't want to play the lead. I don't want to be in the spotlight. I'd rather be in the shadows playing
cool.
someone else." So the two end up falling in love, but he's kind of too dedicated to his mission to continue his relationship with her. At these schools, he goes around and starts learning from different people. So he learns about acids from a guy named Weber. He learns about electronics from a guy named Campbell, chemistry from Dr. Kingsley, gymnastics from Peter Allison, and he goes to Austria under the code name John Smith to learn about
what a great
great code name.
Not really bearing the lead there, man.
Yeah. He goes to stay with former Interpol agent Aurelius Bach and his wife Mina. And this is all covered in Batman number 434 to 435.
That's probably 70s.
This is like the 80s.
80s.
But it's a John Byrne story called The Many Deaths of Batman, where a lot of Batman's former mentors are getting killed off. And so the guys I just listed are the ones who are the victims in that future story.
Who's killing them?
Well, I will let you know in a bit, because I have another list of the people involved who are get killed. So one of those is race car driver Mark Jenner, and then the other guy is demolitions expert Frederick Stone. Now, Frederick Stone...
These are all his mentors.
Yeah, Frederick Stone teaches him bombs and demolitions, which is how Batman can do those explosives and also learn how to do it without killing people.
Okay.
So, Stone teaches him, quote-unquote, the art of the triple insert maneuver. I don't know what that is, but it sounds cool. But he does that in
triple insert.
Yes, in demolitions, and it's later revealed when Bruce becomes Batman. He tries that, and Frederick Stone realizes that, oh my God, I trained Batman, which means that I'm in danger because people will try to come after me. This guy's clearly paranoid. So then he starts killing off all the teachers that this guy was connected to,
so that he could drive Batman out of the shadows a little bit more, so it's easier to catch Batman. Like, what's the point of killing the teachers?
It's so that he can sort of fake his own death within it. It's almost to be honest, he could have just faked his own death without killing anybody. But whatever, I didn't write the story. But
that's true.
Stone,
well, you're also talking about mental illness when you're talking about Batman villains.
Yeah, that's true.
For
So
the most
Frederick
part,
Stone.
so maybe you could get away with that on that level.
So Stone is like one of the guys who is probably the first mentor to turn villain among who we've covered so far.
I actually never even thought about that,
Yeah.
man. Like having a mentor go rogue.
I mean, that's what we saw in Batman Begins.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. Never mind.
But he's the first
I have
of
thought
those.
about it. Just haven't thought about it in a while.
We've seen it. Let's see. He learns crossbow and marksmanship from an Italian champ named Rafael di Guardia, who will also end up getting killed by Frederick Stone later on. Bodybuilding from a bodybuilding legend named LaSalle. Knife handling.
We used to make this joke back in Superhouse in the actual college days, where it would be like, Alfred would be like, sir, the back signal is up, and then Bruce is doing like fucking what do you call it, bench press in the back cave. Just a couple more sets, Alfred, because he's always jacked in the comics.
Yeah,
especially in the 90s, I think.
Yeah. When
there was a time where they all were drawn.
Oh yeah,
super jacked. I feel like that
those
right
Rob
now they're a
Liefeld
little
types.
bit more realistic, slightly, but like. God, they were just drawn super jacked. Steroidal.
Doesn't look like he's drunk any water in days either, because how much how much muscles are showing.
Some Henry Cavill Witcher, no water drinking regimen. You heard about that shit?
Yeah.
3 days without water or some shit.
I've done 1 day without it beforehand, and that in itself is hell.
Yeah,
So
fuck that shit.
Yeah, you need like somebody on set to make sure that you're okay.
Yeah, right?
Or something. Like Hugh Jackman did that for the Wolverine as well.
Yeah.
And it shows off, but also I'm just like, it's only like a 5-minute scene. Like
it's just it's a 5-minute scene. It's going to be seen all over the world, you know. Like I get it in a way, but it's like, yeah, this is not something that everybody can do, you know. Like these guys are in a particular situation in their lives, but people want to emulate that shit. Anyway, it's a huge tangent.
Yeah. Let's see. Bodybuilding from a legend named LaSalle. Knife handling from an American teacher whose name is not identified in the comics. So I covered all the people who were covered in The Many Deaths of Batman. He later tries to learn basics in escapology, or
That's cool.
escaping from stuff, from a man named Max Dodge.
Like Houdini type.
Yeah, a Houdini type who's kind of like a low-rent Houdini type. He's not quite the caliber of Zatara, who we'll cover later.
Yeah.
But Max Dodge will later get captured by the Riddler into creating a death trap for Batman that Batman can't get out of.
Okay.
And when Batman is in the trap, Dodge recognizes who's under the cowl.
Okay.
And how he does it. And the trap that he set up was the one that he deliberately didn't teach Bruce how to get out of.
Okay.
And he realizes that if he doesn't do something, Batman's going to die. So he yells out, "Kid, it's this." And Batman does it. And Max Dodge basically sacrifices his life because Riddler kills him for doing that.
Okay.
But that's his like redemption for helping Riddler, is telling Batman how to get out of it.
Okay.
So that is covered from from Batman Gotham Knight number 29 in the black and white insert at the end. So that's where Max Dodge is covered. And he also starts learning the beginning of Kung Fu from the greatest martial artist of DC Comics, who doesn't wear a costume, named Richard Dragon.
Richard Dragon.
Yes. Who is a white dude, of course. So
I mean, yeah.
The 70s, everybody.
Probably needs to be recast, but it's like a whole Iron Fist situation going on there. You know what I mean?
So Richard Dragon number 7 has a flashback with,
dude.
With that where Bruce Wayne comes in and doesn't give him his name, and
my sidekick, Chop Saki.
Yeah, exactly. Some Chinese guy in the corner just being like, "Oh, the
sidekick is Chinese, but not the lead white guy, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
He's not as good as the white guy, of course.
Never. Even though that's of Chinese art, but whatever. Anyway,
so it's established that when Bruce is 16 during a summer break, he receives training on Mount. I'm going to butcher this. I'm going to be disgraced to my race, but I'm going to try to say it anyway. Qingcheng.
Spell it.
Qingcheng.
QI is usually Chi. Actually,
I don't fucking know, dude.
Hold on, let me read it. Hold on 1 second. I want to read this on his computer. Actually, everybody. Qingcheng, probably.
It's literally called Qingcheng.
Dude, I mean, I don't want to sound racist, but look again. The spelling is QINGCHENG. I know it sounds racist, but it looks like Ching Cheng.
It goes to Mount Ching Cheng in China. Holy shit.
Look, I mean, obviously those words exist in some degree.
Yeah, I know.
Another with the tones of Chinese.
You don't have to justify. I excuse it. I'm the Asian of this podcast. If you have a problem with me excusing that, then go fuck yourself.
Reason is, please do. But like with the QI, so Qigong Kung Fu or something. You ever heard of that? That's usually that's spelled with QI.
Yeah.
Qigong. So that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, on Mount Ching Cheng. Jesus Christ.
You said it, not me, brother. Well, that time anyway.
Bruce receives training from Chu Chin Lee, where he teaches him the more refined martial arts. He teaches him some tightrope walking. He teaches him to withstand pain through acupuncture. So this comes from a flashback in Detective Comics number 599, where Bruce is sitting down and his body is full of needles.
Yeah.
And Chu Chin Lee is there telling him that this is about how much pain that he can withstand. Side note, this story was written by Sam Hamm, who wrote the Batman 1989 draft. And this was written for his 50th anniversary.
At this point in the story, I need a scene like Bruce has a super logical Western mind, and then there's like some mention of chi or some sort of like, like Eastern woo kind of thing. And I mean, you know what I mean? Like a supernatural-ish kind of thing. And then he says something like, "I don't believe in that crap," and
Yeah.
then he just gets hit on the head or something by the Chinese master.
This could have happened.
Shut
yeah.
up.
This could have happened. With Chu Shin-Li.
Yeah.
But he considers Bruce to be one of his best pupils, but he does need to learn more mindfulness. And Bruce expresses interest in more detective work, so lo and behold, Chu Shin-Li recommends, well, why don't you go to Detective Harvey Harris in America?
By mindfulness, you mean like more than like mind your footing in Batman Begins? You're talking about something else, right?
As
far as
in
like
terms
just
of meditation,
knowing what's going on around you, being aware of things, general awareness.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd say so. So he travels to learn mindfulness. He travels to a remote wilderness to train for a full year with a master called the Memory of the Mountain. This is covered in Batman Rebirth Annual number 2.
Sounds like they're fucking looking at crystals and shit.
Yeah, maybe.
Just doing fucking new age shit all the time.
He's learning to encode his own senses onto the mind and be in like this trance-like state.
That's interesting.
During this tenure, Bruce often steals cigarettes for his master, who loves to smoke. So he steals cigarettes, and that's where Bruce sort of disguises himself further to do so. So there's more of him putting his disguises in the field, even more so than when he was in college. And by the end of the year, apparently Bruce has exceeded his master in being able to encode his senses, which I kind of find hard to believe after only 1 year, but whatever. He is
Maybe
now.
He's not a great master to begin with.
He wasn't that great of a master to begin with, clearly. But he remembers that Chu Shin-Li recommended Bruce go back to Harvey Harris.
Okay.
So, which leads us to the next story from Detective Comics Annual number 2, which was an updated post-crisis version of how Bruce got training from Harvey Harris.
Okay.
Now, in this version, Harvey Harris is meeting Bruce for the first time, and Bruce is 17 years old. However, if I'm putting this all into everything as canon, Bruce also got training from Harvey Harris when he was a 14-year-old dressed as Robin. So Bruce shows up, and Harvey doesn't recognize him. How do you explain this? Well, that's where our friend, who we covered several episodes ago, comes in by the name of the Shadow.
Oh, wow. Okay, you're throwing this in.
So I'm throwing this in where just like
God.
maybe sometimes it wasn't actually who he thought he was being taught by. Maybe sometimes he was actually being taught by the Shadow.
Okay.
So I would presume this is actually the real Harvey Harris, and the Harvey Harris that he was learning vigilantism from, who was okay with him wearing a costume in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, why would some random Gotham City cop be okay with this kid
right.
being in the costume, unless he was also somebody in a costume?
So now it's almost like think about the scene where Batman hears the Joker's laugh for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in this scenario, at first it maybe even reminds me of the Shadow's laugh.
Potentially, but I think the Shadow doesn't reveal himself as the Shadow. He's always in these different disguises throughout.
Yeah.
So I would say, to make this continuity make sense, the previous Harvey Harris was actually the Shadow, and that makes more sense in terms of why he would be okay with Bruce being dressed up, because the Shadow's trying to groom him to be his successor.
Okay.
So what actually happens with the real Harvey Harris, as covered in Detective Comics Annual number 2, is that he's in Huntsville, Alabama, where he's pretending to be...
I went to space camp there in
Really?
1994, some shit like that.
Well...
I have video on VHS somewhere of me.
Did you encounter the KKK? Because apparently Bruce encounters them in this story.
No. Okay. Well, I'm sure they're around. Although there's a lot of NASA around there, so I would like to think that part of Alabama is a little bit better than other parts.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, apparently Bruce encounters it. So under the false name of Frank Dixon, Bruce is the understudy to Harvey Harris, and they're investigating these multiple murders that get traced back to a serial killer and KKK member named Ben Carr. And Harvey Harris ends up getting killed by Mr. Carr. And Harris reveals that he knows that Frank is actually Bruce Wayne. And he warns them, don't let your emotions get the better of you.
Okay.
And Bruce makes sure to bring the real killer to justice. And before leaving Huntsville, Bruce makes sure to break into the police department and steal all photos of himself.
Okay.
So that this is him being paranoid, but making sure that nobody can trace Bruce Wayne to his actual training.
Right.
Which is kind of cool. Let's see. So, after stealing all these photos of himself, apparently Bruce starts learning and earns a pilot license around 18. He learns airplane mechanics, repair, engineering, how to skydive, how to use a parachute. This is all important for when he uses the Batwing.
Dude, you see it in the movies, but it's just like this really is just a shitload of skills,
Yeah.
that you have to be really good at,
It seems so easy in the movies, and then like when you actually do it, you're just like, wow, okay, like somebody who would need to know all this.
Kevin Smith
Would
talks about
be
like
amazing.
he sleeps 4 hours a night because that's what he read, that how much Batman sleeps.
Yeah, that can't be healthy.
Which is not healthy at
Well,
all.
also,
but this is a
he
fake
sleeps-
character. You know what I mean? But that's how you can kind of rationalize how he has all the time to do all this shit.
Yeah. Also, he only sleeps 4 hours a night because at night that's when he's mostly working.
That's true. Also 4 hours during the day, maybe.
maybe 2.
Yeah.
Like Grant Morrison in one of his first issues of his run has the actual schedule where it's like he sleeps into like 2 p.m. and then he like works out and then he goes to the Batcave. So
That
he's
is
ready.
interesting. He writes an actual schedule out in that run.
Yeah, well, not like that detailed, but he has the times for what's happening.
that's
It's just like one page.
That's pretty cool.
Of like him waking up in the afternoon and then him working out and then him being in the Batcave to prepare for going out that night.
Remember when you said like he didn't have where Bruce Wayne wasn't that good at shooting firearms?
Yes.
That, or at least he didn't excel at it as much as he did everything else.
Mhm.
So if that's like a weak point, is it generally written that he's better at like striking than kicking, or like or
nice.
judo over karate, or like is there like a certain skill set he's better at?
That's a very good question, actually. There's not, because of the nature of these comics, I don't think anybody's really thought that through.
Yeah.
They just, like, it's already a given that he's, like, one of these
just
master martial
fucking
artists.
good at everything.
Yeah,
just about.
exactly. But I do think that's more interesting if he is up against a mentor-type character who's just, like, you always failed at, like, this one thing.
Yeah. Like, at least in one run, because, I mean, all of these are sort of, in their own way, a thought experiment.
Yeah.
Like, to have it where he's like maybe bad at shooting guns, but his best thing is like actually not fighting, but although he's good at that, but like maybe the smoke bomb, the bomb stuff or something, I don't know, some shit like that, or bombs and escaping, something like that. That'd be kind of cool. Anyway,
all right, Bruce is now 18.
Yes,
he's
ready to fuck.
He goes back to Gotham because he's missed his friends like Harvey and everybody. And this is where I bring in a recent book. It's a young adult book called Batman Nightwalker. And it covers Bruce Wayne at 18. And there's this rising crime in Gotham because of these gangs called the Nightwalkers.
Okay, cool name.
And Bruce ends up trying to stop one of them and endangers himself and gets in trouble with the police. So the police say, hey, you have to do community service. And so his community service is within Arkham Asylum. And helping out the asylum. So this is where he knows the ins and outs of Arkham, which pays off later on when he's Batman, because sometimes he just sneaks in there to like interrogate Two-Face or something.
Okay.
And while he's there, he ends up meeting one of the Nightwalkers herself, a girl named Madeline. And Madeline kind of has this Hannibal Lecter type role in the story of helping him out, but you're not really sure what her motivation is.
A girl Hannibal Lecter?
Yeah, girl
Hannibal woman
Hannibal Lecter. And Bruce ends up helping out in stopping the Nightwalkers by the end, but that sort of reinvigorates his love for trying to help the city, and he decides to use his detective work and finally, now that he's a man, go after who killed his parents years ago. So this is where I bring in the New 52, and the Dark Knight number 0 is where it covers that at 18, Bruce tracks down this homeless man who was in the alley when his parents were killed.
Okay.
And asks him who did it. And he figures out that the killer was a man named Joe Chill.
Okay. Of
and
course.
He believes, since it's the New 52, he also wonders if there's some sort of conspiracy, if like Chill was hired, if Chill was hired by the Court of Owls.
By the way,
like
Joe
that.
Chill is like his gangster name.
Yeah, his real name is supposed to be Joseph Chilton.
Okay.
Chilton.
Right. Okay.
Because in another version, I didn't really cover this because it's not really part of the training, but there was this wild story where Bruce was raised by his Uncle Phil. No, his Uncle Philip.
Okay. Yeah.
West Philadelphia, born and raised.
You see, kids, that was a very popular show in the 90s.
Well, Uncle Phil was traveling a lot, so he left him in the care of his housekeeper, Alice Chilton. And Alice Chilton kind of had the Alfred role at the time because Alfred didn't raise Bruce in the pre-crisis era.
Okay.
So it says that he was raised by Alice Chilton, not knowing that Alice Chilton was the mother of Joe Chill.
This is not really used that much anymore, though, right?
This is not. People forget about this part.
This is like that Star Wars thing where it's like it's a whole city, a whole galaxy, but everybody knows each other.
You are a Palpatine.
Yeah.
So,
spoilers, man.
I left
Jeez.
this one. Yeah, we're releasing this in 2020.
Yeah, it's true. You had your time.
If you wanted to see it, you've seen it. If you don't give a shit, then you still don't know what we're talking about.
Right.
So
maybe you've seen it and don't give a shit.
Yeah, potentially. So
whatever.
he confronts Joe Chill with a gun. And he's like, hey, like, 'cause I know he had that previous feeling of like, hey, I don't want to necessarily take a life. That idea hasn't quite sunk in yet.
Okay.
So he wants to find out who killed or who ordered the hit on his parents. And so he confronts Chill. And in The Dark Knight #0, Joe Chill is this homeless dude who's like, I didn't know it was the Waynes. I just wanted the pearls. Like, I just wanted the money. And Bruce is like, no, like there's a conspiracy. You were hired. And Joe Chill was like, no.
I actually think I read this comic.
Yeah.
He thinks it's a bigger story there, but it's really not. And he has to. It's not as big of a deal that he was thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so Bruce, of course, throws away the gun and
decides. It's not as epic.
Yeah, decides to go around the world to find a new purpose. So I incorporate this because in the old comics, when they first brought in Joe Chill, when Bill Finger first brought that in, it always struck me as weird that, like, okay, Batman encounters Joe Chill. You're telling me that this whole time, the world's greatest detective just never thought, hey, maybe I should investigate my parents' murder.
Right.
It makes more sense to do it before he even becomes Batman. And
yeah,
if his
for sure.
Confrontation
That's
with
the
that
number
guy,
one deal.
Yeah. If the confrontation with seeing, I thought this guy was the face of evil.
Yeah.
But it turns out he's just like they covered a similar scene in Gotham.
Hey everybody, it's Andrew. I just wanted to tell you about our friend Israel's retro gaming shop, RetroCo. If you go to retro-ko.com, you'll be able to see all of his retro gaming goodies. If you wanted to get that Sega Saturn hidden gem from back in the day, or if you wanted to get the Famicom disk system that you never got as a kid, or any other type of retro game that you were into, or import game, please go to retroco.com. That's retro-ko.com. And if you use the SuperHouse code Johnson's Ballsack, you'll be able to get a little bit of a discount at checkout. So please, once again, if you could just go to retroco.com. You can also go to facebook.com/retroco with no hyphen. That's RETROKO. You'll be able to find him on Facebook as well. If you were looking for that PlayStation import game that you never got, if you were looking for that Mega Drive game that you never got, or any other kind of retro game, any import game, it could even be European, Israel also curates bundles at RetroCo, and he'll curate that bundle just for you. So please, go check him out. If you put in the code Johnson's Ballsack at checkout, you'll receive a SuperHouse discount. So in this instance, you have he figures it out. He knows it's Joe Chill by the time he's 18.
Yeah.
So that's already pretty much done.
Yeah.
But that'd be kind of cool because it's like, even though I figured this out, I still have this desire lingering in me.
Yeah.
To pursue crime, etc. And it's like, and then he's confronted, like, story-wise, internal arc-wise, where do I go from here?
Yeah.
I thought this would have gone away by now, but I still have it in me.
Yeah. It was like, maybe I need to attack what created him in the first place. So Gotham covered a very similar scene.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's not a throwaway line, Van. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I'll
rewind that 30 seconds, everybody, on your iPod thing. Or
say
Android.
It again. He goes after what created Joe Chill in the first place.
Yes, there we go.
But a very similar scene happened in Gotham where he confronted his parents' killer, and it's probably the best scene in the whole series where he confronts him with a gun. And the Joe Chill character, he's not called Joe Chill in it, but it's the same type of character, and he's like, kill me, I'm a monster.
Okay.
And Bruce says, I wish you were a monster, but you're just a man.
Okay.
And he drops the gun and he leaves, and the guy picks up the gun and he kills himself. I don't know if I need that
man.
element, but
Yeah.
I like Bruce making that choice.
Yeah.
And it's at the end of that episode that Bruce writes a letter to Alfred being like, I need to go out and learn stuff. There's more about the world I need to know, and I can't. But I've learned that you can't kill murder. You can't like use killing to solve things, because it clearly didn't solve anything when I confronted the actual guy.
Right.
So this is where the no-kill rule kind of comes in. This is also sort of covered in Begins, even though he's a lot older.
It's the whole like,
when
you kill a murderer, there's still the same amount of murderers left in the world.
Yeah.
Like they always attribute that to Batman, but
I don't think he ever actually said that. I think that's just like an internet meme thing.
yes, exactly.
My favorite is Red Hood's response, where he's just like, well, what if I kill like a lot of murderers? What about that?
You know what? The logic checks out.
It's true. So he decides to go around the world. So he goes to Asia, of course.
You got to.
Yeah,
In my world, you have to.
At some point, he trains with some Shaolin monks in Tibet. So that's shown in Secret Origins #2 in the New 52. But he starts volunteering, especially because like he feels like a need to redeem himself. In my version, to contextualize this, he feels a need to redeem himself after almost killing Joe Chill.
Okay.
So he starts volunteering with doctors in India to treat people.
This could connect internally with his dad being a doctor.
Well, yeah, a little bit of that too. But this connects to a movie we haven't seen yet, but it is covered slightly a little bit. I won't give too much away, but we do see some of his training in Gotham Knight, which was the animated show, the animated movie that's kind of like the Animatrix that's supposed to take place between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight.
Gotcha.
So it covers that at some point during his time, presumably after he threw the gun away on Joe Chill in the movie, he goes off and ended up in India, and he wants to receive training to sort of minimize his pain and control it, because all the previous masters have told him that you're too confronted, you're too dominated by this. So he meets a man named Cassandra, who sort of advances his training in pain endurance that he learned from Chu Chin Lee. So he's sleeping on a bed of needles, standing on hot coals without reacting. And one night, there's a confrontation where Bruce has to step in and use his fight.
Is there any kind of like Buddhist meditation type of shit that
this is where he learns
to help him out with not just fighting but dealing with his anger? I
Yeah.
always thought those scenes are cool. You know.
Yeah, this is where he's to learn that, so that he's not emotionally compromised when he's out there. Because we associate Batman with being angry, but we also know that he's not recklessly angry.
Like, this is honestly like the timeline's a little bit different in the Dark Knight trilogy, but like just as an example, obviously later in his career too, but when he first fights Bane, he's so angry.
Yeah, of course.
And he gets ass handed to him. He's like definitely like, screaming his head off, which is kind of cool. I mean, I like Batman being angry. It's kind of cool to see him fucking rage out a little bit.
Yeah, and we see that with Joker too. But
it's cool that he loses. Obviously, you got to lose a fight in the beginning anyway.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Yeah, I thought that was cool. Like, I always like that kind of shit where it's like you're not gonna win if you fucking lose to anger every time.
Yeah, exactly. So, this is in a segment called "Working Through Pain" in Gotham Knight. Very good title. And basically, a few men come to harass Cassandra, and Bruce steps in the only way that he knows how to. But that feels like that's the breaking point for Cassandra. Is like, I can't help you if that's what you're gonna do.
Okay.
So, but Bruce has ended up learning different yoga or types of meditation, different techniques to lower his blood pressure, heart rate, body temperature. But he'll keep practicing this throughout his time. He eventually ends up with going to a man named Shastri or something. It's a snake handler, and he learns this in some more of the esoteric arts. But that Shastri also appears in The Many Deaths of Batman as the sort of one mentor who Batman ends up saving in this. So, lucky him.
It's his what's his ethnicity? I guess it doesn't really matter that much.
Well, he's wearing a turban in it. So
I gotcha. Okay, all right.
That's about it, because Batman actually disguises himself as Shastri, which is kind of problematic now, because that means that he does the whole brown face thing, but he does it to save a man's life. So I don't know. Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, you have to, what do you call it? Like, impersonate another person. But if that other person's another race, you're obviously getting into some
yes,
hairy
but you're trying to
territory
save someone's life.
That's
here.
true. That's true.
You're not
that's
trying
true.
to do it for a movie.
That's true.
Let's see. So now Bruce Wayne is 19. this guy has already had a way more interesting adolescence than any of us on this planet. But he goes to Rio de Janeiro, spends 6 weeks learning how to stunt drive from an international criminal named Don Miguel. This was covered in
Brazil.
In Batman number 21 in a flashback in terms of like how did Bruce learn how to drive the Batmobile.
That's cool. Definitely needs that like demolition driving kind of.
Yeah, because it's not enough to just know how to drive. How do you drive the fucking Batmobile?
Yeah.
So he bases it off of what he learns from Don Miguel, and his final test is driving the getaway car.
Okay, yeah.
And Bruce drives them through, but Bruce turns the tables on Don Miguel, where he's just like, you committed all these crimes that include the deaths of these officers, and you're not going to get away with it. So he knocks out Don Miguel and leaves the car and escapes. And so the cops come, and they arrest Don Miguel, but Bruce gets away scot-free.
So he has to sort of kind of get into the crime world.
Yeah, it's kind of like what is
pretty
said
heavy
in Begins, where he's like, you had to learn how to become criminals. Criminal in order to
that
learn
whole
the mind.
montage is awesome, especially that line where he says something to the effect of, I had to rethink what crime was when I had to learn to learned to steal to eat.
Yes.
Damn, dude, we're when I heard that line, I was like, damn, we're getting there. This is great.
Yeah. So with the fact that he's almost killed Joe Chill and he trained with a known criminal Don Miguel, it does make sense that we throw in something that was established in Denny O'Neill's The Man Who Falls, which is the idea that Bruce flirted with the idea of joining the FBI.
Okay.
Thinking that, maybe I should try this by the book route. I've been thinking of going, bending the rules and everything, but I don't know. My conscience doesn't feel clear from consorting with all these criminals. So he tries to enroll in the FBI around 20. They're just like, well, your college stuff isn't great because of all the times that he dabbled, and they don't realize that he arguably did way better in school than anyone else there. He just didn't do it through the formal means. But an FBI agent named Arthur McKee is said to have been the one to teach him the importance of the different criminal aliases. McKee apparently has had has time in the field as an undercover agent. So McKee's the one who ends up teaching him a little bit more about how it's like to go undercover as a criminal. So that's established in Batman number 589. McKee's just mentioned he's never seen. Let's see. He also sneaks into the coroner's office to study bullet wounds while on the job. That incident is covered in Batman Gotham Knight number 1 in a flashback. Sort of a creepy, eerie thing for him to do, but whatever.
It's going to be part of his job, or at least he...
Yeah.
At this point, though, it seems like he just has all these interests, or there is a plan to kind of combine it all into something.
He does want to fight crime. He's just not sure the best means to do it.
He's just doing all this shit.
So he's trying to learn as much as he can for when he's ready, for when he has everything, all his shit together, basically.
I gotcha, yeah.
So he can't seem to get marksmanship down. So after spending 6 weeks of doing paperwork, he's like, you know what? I have to work outside the system. And he remembers...
Easier to throw a boomerang than it is to shoot a gun.
Yes. So he remembers what that one law professor taught him years ago, that the law and justice don't always gel together. So he's like, all right, I'm not going to be an FBI agent anymore. So after spending time away from the FBI, when he's like 20 years old, he goes to Las Vegas to some old family friends of his family, of the Wayne family, the Zataras. Okay. So that's where he meets, well, he doesn't meet, but he reunites with John Zatara, former superhero in himself, but who used magic.
Is in Gotham or fucking somewhere in the Middle East or
Vegas.
Vegas. Oh yeah, of course.
he's a magician, dude.
Of areas in the whole world.
And of course, John Zatara's lovely daughter Zatanna. And Bruce attempts to disguise himself under John Smith again, but obviously Zatara and Zatanna see through it. So,
by the way, I am really surprised how popular Zatanna is. Like, she seems to be like, that's going to be the next, like, female DC thing, probably.
I'm surprised they haven't tried that yet.
Like, the thing is, like, Poison Ivy's probably pretty big, too. She's a villain in Batman's world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's just... Yeah, we're probably going to get that announcement in the next few months here.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Like a Zatanna movie or fucking at least a HBO Max show. Let's be honest, DC Universe is going to be subsumed soon. Or whatever the word is.
Got to read as many comics as I can off of that site before.
Might have the same service, just be part of a bigger deal.
Yeah, I know. Seriously,
it'll be probably more than likely be the same thing.
Yeah. But the whole Bruce trying to disguise himself as John Smith thing, that comes from the very first instance of them tying Batman to Zatara in the episode Zatanna in Batman the Animated Series. But a lot of what is about to happen here comes from Detective Comics Rebirth, 959 through 961, where Bruce undergoes a lot of the training in the art of stage magic and escaping. So stuff like what Max Dodge taught him, but more
leveled up, esoteric kind of shit.
Yeah, but also trying to teach him more esoteric stuff, more magic sleight of hand, which Bruce doesn't quite believe in, of course, because he's very logical.
Brain, yeah.
So Zatanna's like, well, let me prove it to you. So she takes Bruce through a portal and gives him a tour of the magic collection and tries to basically show him all this occult type shit that Bruce is just not ready for.
It's like the Doctor Strange of DC, basically, kind of shit.
So we have Bruce he's curious about it, he wants to learn more, but they end up getting interrupted in the comic by Zatara himself, who apparently is in the middle of meeting with somebody trying to recruit him into the League of Assassins.
Okay. All right.
So Zatara's like, hold on a second, to his guest and scolds Zatanna for showing Bruce all this stuff. So he immediately mind wipes Bruce, making him forget he ever saw it. And
just for like that day.
Yeah, just for that day, of course. Not the whole time, otherwise we need to redo everything.
Talk about a lot of
no wonder he had so much
skill.
Training afterwards.
He
forgot it all, so thanks to Zatara. But anyways, the dazed and confused Bruce gets escorted out by Zatanna, where he accidentally bumps into Zatara's guest, Ra's al Ghul.
Oh, shit, okay. And they're on good terms.
Well, Ra's is trying to recruit Zatara, but Zatara is not having it.
Refusing, okay.
Yeah.
Because of the reputation.
Yeah, and Ra's takes note of this mysterious boy who's there.
Okay.
So, ultimately, Bruce learns a little bit of ventriloquism, which comes in handy in like one Paul Dini issue where he throws his voice to pretend that, he's somewhere else.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
I could see that as a fitting into the escape arts as well.
Yeah.
Like if you're stuck somewhere and you want somebody to go in another direction following a voice.
Yeah.
I could see that working, yeah.
Yeah, so this is where he learns the whole criminals are superstitious and cowardly lot that I have to...
you have the exact time that he starts saying
well, this is kind of where I
though.
adopted. Yeah, where he's like, I can use what I learned from the Zataras and stage magic to play off of their fears.
Right.
So let's see. So he's told by the ancient, he's told about this ancient demon called Etrigan.
Oh, yeah.
And ends up seeking out Jason Blood, who is the host body for the demon Etrigan, but he ends up teaching him more about fear tactics and demonology. Now, this seems like a weird tangent because it's just like, wait a minute, he learned from an actual demon dude, but this is covered in Detective Comics Rebirth 998, so I'm not making this shit up.
Rebirth 998?
Well,
they
Rebirth
just kept with the numbers.
Rebirth when Rebirth happened to Detective Comics, they didn't do any renumbering. They kept it going because they wanted to keep it going to issue 1000. That's how we had Detective Comics 1000.
Oh, that's true.
Earlier this year.
Yeah,
Otherwise, that'd be a shit ton of issues once Rebirth started.
That's true. It's like, damn, they're prolific.
So he goes to New Mexico to train with Zatara's counterpart, another costume showman, another master escape artist named Mr. Miracle. Now, this is not the Apocalypse New Gods version of Mr. Miracle. This is Thaddeus Brown, who's the earlier version of it. So that is mentioned in Detective Comics Rebirth 996. Thaddeus Brown. So at this point, Batman should be an expert in escaping from shit because he's got
like 3 different masters.
3 different masters in this, plus all this occult shit from Jason Blood.
Right.
So he takes on the persona of Frank Dixon again to shadow Harvey Harris's colleague in private detective stuff, Dan Mallory in Chicago. This is covered in Batman Chronicle number 6, where Dan advises him always look for the shoes because that's where a lot of the clues are. And Bruce uses his preliminary knowledge in sticking to the shadows in order to save Dan Mallory's life.
Okay.
So that's Batman Chronicle number 6. So again, this is more training in terms of the detective aspect.
How old is he at this point?
He
20?
is 20 at this
20.
point.
Okay.
So he goes around seeking more mentors. At 20, he goes to Afghanistan and begins training with a military inventor who's Russian. I don't know why he had to go to Afghanistan for it, but a Russian military inventor named Sergei.
I'm sure there's Russians in fucking Afghanistan, dude.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just like...
going on right now. It's politics.
Yeah.
That's definitely Syria.
Again, this is when Bruce was 20. It's not now.
Yeah.
Presumably,
I got you.
Yeah, he studies computer science, computer engineering, robotics, code breaking. This is where he learns the invention shit.
Okay.
He learns it from Sergei, as established in the New 52 in Batman number 22.
An ex-Chernobyl scientist.
Yeah, pretty much. And then on his final day of training, Sergei, for Bruce's 21st birthday, he traps Bruce inside a room inside the Sphinx and says that if you don't find an inventive way to get out, you will die in here.
Damn.
So Bruce has to use his ingenuity to come up with an invention to break out. And, of course, he's pissed at Sergei, but Sergei is like, did you feel it? The rush, the adrenaline of the idea. Not necessarily that you were going to die, but the idea, the realization that you had to improvise, to go outside of your rigid mindset in order to survive.
That's cool.
That's what I wanted to teach you. So
this whole, like, escape thing from the Sphinx is in the comic?
This is in the New 52.
That's cool.
Not Detective. Batman number 22.
That's pretty sweet. I like that.
That's cool.
And fucking Bruce Wayne and the fucking Sphinx, dude. That's pretty epic.
So, yeah, it ends with him giving him this lesson in front of the Sphinx. So it's pretty cool. So, obviously, they're not in Afghanistan at that point. They're in Egypt. What the fuck?
Definitely in Egypt.
Why did they say that it was Afghanistan?
Meet Afghanistan, maybe, and then move to Egypt.
I guess
that's
so.
That's the what I had in my mind.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Batman number 605, or no, not that one. I think it's Batman Shadow of the Bat number 0 references that Bruce learned savate from a killer who was a beach bum.
It's a French martial art
on an island off of Borneo. Yeah.
Savat, maybe. Actually, I'm not sure how you pronounce that.
Savat. Either way,
it is French, so maybe it is Savate.
I have combined this with the possibility that this beach bum is David Kane. Now, David Kane is a convicted killer who is an assassin and member of the League of Assassins.
When does he learn the Casey fighting method?
Never, because I don't like that. He learned that on the set of Batman Begins.
Oh, man. Okay.
Or he learns it from Ra's al Ghul later on. But,
yeah, exactly. He's got ninja swords, but Casey fighting method.
Kane does teach him the perfect reading of body language in a fight, or that his own language is...
That's cool.
Yeah, his own language is violence in terms of Kane. So Bruce refuses to become a killer, and Kane decides to move him into the next... But Kane's like, he has potential. So Kane decides he's going to... This is me contextualizing again. Kane decides, I'm going to help recruit him into the League of Assassins.
Okay.
So he decides to recommend him to Master Kirigi in Korea. So Master Kirigi is first shows up in Batman number 431. He was also in The Man Who Falls. He's also in a DLC for Arkham Origins called Initiation that covers Bruce Wayne's training. And Kirigi is the one in the comics who has the monastery on the mountain that Bruce has to walk up all the way up to. And
those mountains are in Korea, South Korea, I guess.
Yes, the North Korean, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Paektu.
Let me see.
Paektu.
I think you could say Paektusan.
Paektusan Mountains. Okay.
Maybe.
So he trains with Kirigi for like a year learning. This is where he learns ninjutsu.
In Korea, though?
Well, Kirigi may or may not be Korean himself. He might also be Japanese. But anyway.
I mean, I know espionage tactics don't stem only from Japan, but that term ninjutsu does.
Well, Kirigi is the main trainer for the League of Assassins in the comics.
All right. Well,
Bruce will later find out that a lot of the League of Assassins, he will later find out as Batman that they stemmed from Kirigi and confront Kirigi himself later on in Batman number 431.
Okay.
But as covered in Arkham Origins Initiation, one of the ninjas who sort of helps train him and is one of his opponents is Lady Shiva.
Okay.
Who is David Kane's lover. And of course, they will hook up and eventually give birth to future Batgirl, Cassandra Cain. But anyways.
Awesome.
Kirigi advises Bruce against his current path, citing that some great violence has marked him and that he has to unlearn everything that he's learned in order to move on. Bruce, of course, refuses and decides to leave. This, of course, disrupts Kane's plan to recruit Bruce to the League of Assassins and shares this to Ra's al Ghul. This is my timeline now. He shares this to Ra's al Ghul, and Ra's decides to keep tabs on this American
Okay.
who has potential, who he also connects to being that kid from Las Vegas who he was trying to talk to Zatanna. So on his way to Tibet, Bruce is mugged by some kids who beat him up and steal his wallet. This is referred to in Detective Comics number 1000, but these are actually new League of Assassin trainees.
Okay.
As part of this sort of Roz trying to keep tabs on him.
Right.
Afterwards, Bruce goes somewhere in Asia. He goes under training from. I'm being very loose here with the continuity, but he goes to train with Madame Mantis. And Madame Mantis is from. Get this. She's from Lego Batman Gotham City Breakout.
Madame Mantis.
Madame Mantis.
That's a cool name, though.
Is this old lady
cheesy cool.
Who trains him and Slade Wilson, future Deathstroke. And
okay.
Now it's
in what though?
Well, apparently art in Lego Batman, but I'd like to think, yeah, because she had. Okay, I'll just be honest on this one. In this one, it's very kiddish. It's very humorous, but it is some part of Bruce's training, so I decided to include it in here. And at one point, they're doing art, and Bruce does a mask of a bat, and she's like, "That's amazing." And then Slade Wilson just does his like two-toned mask, and she's like, "That nearly gave me a stroke. I'll call you Stroke Death." And so that's the type of humor that's in this Lego Batman thing. But you could say I do like the idea of Slade Wilson having the same training as Bruce at some point. So I did include it here. He does end up going back to Japan, spend 6 months in a Japanese hermitage under the name of George Woodbridge, where he does sort of learn about he sort of gets obsessed about getting defeated all the time by everyone else in the school, and turns to extreme methods to get better. So one of those is it's almost like he goes overboard in his training of learning about it. So during this time he goes up against Kyodai Ken. As a student of his. Now, this Kyodai Ken is a villain from Batman the Animated Series, from Night of the Ninja and Day of the Samurai.
Death Touch.
Yeah, the one with the Death Touch.
The one that I tried it on my brothers a few times.
Yes. So this
I
is where
remember that schematic.
Yes.
There's like some schematic for it in the show. I
was
like, man, they were kind of teaching. I can't be the only kid that tried that shit, man.
Yeah, but obviously it doesn't work.
I mean, obviously not, but it's just like they definitely showed more or less a how-to of a death touch to kids. You know, but, I don't know. It's just the idea of it, even though it doesn't work.
But in Japan, he learns from various senseis, and at one point, Sensei Kurosaki decides that there's too much of a disturbance, there's too much of a shadow in Bruce. It's almost like Bruce is channeling this one horned demon.
There's an idea in Japan called, it's not just in Japan, I would assume, but it's called shugyo, which is like, it's usually translated as kind of like a pilgrimage, but it's not like, obviously not like a Christian or Muslim kind of or whatever kind of pilgrimage. It's more like a warrior's pilgrimage where it's like you train to an extreme degree to where, and you're alone in the mountains or with just your partner or something, and it's like it really is to kind of reach this like warrior's like enlightenment kind of thing, and like you train so much you kind of go insane, but it's the only way to get to this higher level mentally as well. Because you're going fucking nuts. Yeah. And I think that'd be kind of cool. Maybe he's already doing this in your story. I don't know. Yeah. But I think it's a kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, that he's done that. So that is from a manga called Batman Death Mask.
That's from the fucking what's that guy's name? I forget his name. Anyway, from Bat Manga though, they call it Bat Manga.
Well, it was actually a more recent one than the Bat
Manga
one. Yeah, but it is one. I specifically got that one because of the fact I covered training. So he gets cast out, but he does end up turning to Sensei Yoru, who is the one who has the student of Kyodai Ken. So Bruce gets obsessed over the fact that Kyodai Ken keeps beating him, and Bruce has to learn from his mistakes. And Kyodai Ken eventually gets caught trying to steal Sensei Yoru's ancient samurai sword, and when Bruce confronts him about it, Yoru kicks Kyodai Ken out. Kyodai Ken, of course, vows vengeance against Bruce.
Okay.
So, again, another character who is a future villain.
Okay.
Bruce then goes to study under one of the most deadliest assassins of the Yakuza, Tsunamoto is his name. Tsunamoto teaches him how to anticipate his opponent's attacks, as well as a bunch of spiritual healing techniques. At one point in this is from, again, the same story that Sam Ham wrote that introduced Chu Chin Lee, Detective Comics number 599. At one point, he flat out shoots Bruce in the leg, and Bruce almost doesn't feel it until afterwards.
Wow.
He's like, "You're bleeding, by the way." So that's how advanced Bruce's healing has gotten, which explains why Batman is able to push through all the shit that he goes through every night.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Tsunamoto will later be a villain against Batman and have a confrontation with him, but that's much later.
He's a Yakuza gang boss as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And ends up, when Batman is protecting somebody who the Yakuza is going after, he takes it upon himself to go up against his former student.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool. He then goes to the Himalayas to study under Shihan Matsuda, known to be one of the greatest Zen warrior monks, where he has to master, apparently it's a real thing, I might mispronounce this, Tummo meditation?
Let me see. I'm sorry, I need to see it again.
Tummo. Tummo.
That's not Japanese, it looks like.
I don't think it is.
Tummo or Tummo?
Tummo meditation. Apparently, it is the ability to meditate to the point where you can control your internal temperature and withstand the freezing cold.
Yeah, I've heard, you see that in I think I saw that in Johnny Quest back in the day where Haji did that or some shit. But yeah, I think they're probably, maybe these techniques exist, dude.
Yeah.
I feel like that's some of those things that, again, maybe I'm over romanticizing the East, but it's maybe those things do exist and they just haven't taught the round eye just yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just they just don't want to teach anybody outside of their circles.
Nobody's crazy enough to go to the Himalayas and try it under Shihan Matsuda.
Yeah, for sure.
So, during this time, he meets this shop girl named Mio and sort of falls in love with her during this time.
Okay.
And Matsuda keeps hitting him for being distracted during his meditations because of this love that he's feeling for this girl.
Okay.
But eventually, he's able to master it and melt the ice. That he's sitting on this ice while he's doing the meditation, and he ends up controlling his temperature to the point where he melts the ice around him and is able to keep himself warm.
There must be something to do with Buddhist meditation and controlling your mind, because there definitely was that one monk on the cover of the Rage Against the Machine album, which is real, from protesting the Vietnam War. That guy didn't budge, right? They know some shit that they're not teaching to many people. That's all. It just seems that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Matsuda congratulates him. Bruce sort of considers himself to be like a son to Matsuda and his wife. And Matsuda says, "You are not my son. I am not your father. This is not your mother. You're a student." And that's it.
Okay.
And the big difference that Matsuda has with Bruce is that Matsuda, despite being married and everything for years, he doesn't really believe in love. Love is just a distraction.
Okay.
For Bruce. And this comes to a head at the end of the story, which is Batman. Hold on, that's Batman. Detective Comics number 0, where somebody attacks Matsuda in the night and murders him.
0 for New 52?
Yeah, 0 for New 52.
Okay.
Matsuda is murdered, and Bruce fights the assassin, only to find out the assassin is the shop girl, Mio.
Okay.
Who has actually been going under training for the League of Assassins.
Okay.
So in the scuffle, she's wounded, Matsuda is killed, and the person who hired Mio turns out to be Matsuda's wife, Sama. And she's killed as well. So basically everybody except Bruce seems to be dead.
Okay.
From here. And Matsuda's last words to Bruce are, "This is why there's no room for love."
Okay.
So this is a very dark story, but Mio apparently survives this encounter, even though Bruce thinks that she died, and reports to her boss in the League of Assassins, of course, being Ra's al Ghul.
Okay.
So again, this is me contextualizing the fact that he seems to meet a lot of League of Assassins related people beforehand. He then goes to China to train under the legendary master Wong Fei. Now I don't know if this is Wong Fei Hung from Once Upon a Time in China with Jet Li, but his name is Wong Fei in Brave and the Bold in the episode Return of the Fearsome Fangs.
It's probably inspired by that guy,
Yeah. So he learns, and Wong Fei gives him the choice to pick his totem because everybody has a different totem.
Okay.
So of course Bruce chooses the bat.
Does he have any impetus to choose it at this point though?
To be honest, not really. Maybe he just remembers falling into the cave as a kid.
Oh, that's already happened. Yeah,
that has happened. Yeah,
okay.
as a
so
kid.
maybe could be like the slow trickle.
Yeah, it's
into
slowly
that.
happening. Yeah. So he has other pupils with them. Some of them have the masks of like the fox and the vulture and everything, and that's going to become the villains, the Terrible Trio.
Okay.
And then another guy has a tiger mask, and that's the future Bronze Tiger himself,
Right.
Ben Turner. But anyways, he trains with them until he leaves, but eventually someday, under the Brave and the Bold episodes, he will come back.
Okay.
And team up with the Bronze Tiger to fight the Terrible Trio. Later on in China, he follows the trail of a serial killer named Huaren. I don't know. Huarong.
Is this a Korean guy?
H-U-A. This is supposed to be in China, but H-U-A-I-R-E-N.
Huaren. Huaren, maybe.
Huaren. Okay.
Huaren.
Okay. Disgraced in my culture. All right. Huaren. This is from
I'm guessing.
Batman Confidential in a story called Superpowers, where Huaren manages to actually kill Bruce, but he gets resurrected by a metahuman named Ree. This is where I'm just like, okay, I guess I have to incorporate this for completion's sake. But apparently Ree is part of a team that's kind of like the Chinese Justice League, but predates the Justice League.
That's awesome, actually.
Called the Zhuguan.
Tell me they're based on the Chinese Zodiac or some shit.
I wish. That would be cool.
That would be kind of sweet, right?
But Ree has the ability to help resurrect the dead, and they give him a magical elixir to give him temporary superpowers.
Okay, so Bruce Wayne does get superpowers.
He does get superpowers, and they give him his own persona, and that name is, I'm going to fucking butcher this so much, He-On Wushu?
Yeah, I think you'd say hey.
Hey-On Wushu.
Wushu.
Okay. Hey-On, which apparently translates to the Dark Knight. Anybody who speaks Chinese is probably screaming in their car right now.
The on, I could see that, because from Japanese, I could see that the on is dark.
Yeah.
Oh, and hey
Hey-On Wushu?
could be night.
Could
be night or like yeah. There's the cat, everybody. All right, keep going.
Okay. So, he basically, that name translates into the Dark Knight, and his superpower that gets from the elixir is the ability to be invisible in the dark.
Okay.
Of course. So he joins the Zhuguan, the Chinese Justice League, in battle against Huaren. And during this period, he learns the usefulness, of course, of fighting with a team, as well as improve his weapon throwing skills. However, the elixir ends up turning out not to be what he thinks. He thinks, like, okay, I get superpowers, but it turns out to be made partially from opium and creates an addiction. And this entire Chinese Justice League, of course, has an opium addiction because they're Chinese. But they create an addiction.
To give context to anybody that may not know, this definitely was a thing during Bruce Lee's father's time, and that gives you, during the 50s especially. And so maybe in this universe we're writing, it's still kind of going on. Mm-hmm. Bruce Lee's father was an opium addict, everybody.
Yes. So Bruce decides he's going to quit and continue his path alone, and that Matsuda was right in the terms of the fact that he's better off alone. So he keeps encountering these situations where he might fall in love or he might join a team, but he feels a betrayal, and he's like, that solidifies that I'm going to be a loner. So to sort of purge himself from this encounter, he starts learning from, he goes to Nanda Parbat to learn from a man named the Master there. And this is covered actually in Batman the Animated Series continuity in the Justice League Unlimited episode Dead Reckoning.
Okay.
So he goes there to purge his soul, and this is where he starts to go more and more into more of a philosophical, back to his meditation type of training. So
I probably saw this because I think I saw every Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah, so this is one where both he and Deadman know the Master, and the Master supposedly killed, and Deadman comes to recruit him. So later on, he learns from a man named Xiao Law on Taoism and how to clear his mind and flow with the currents of life rather than struggle against them. So that's from a story in Legends of the Dark Knight 52 to 53 called Tao, of course. And he also learns from another mentor named Hishian Tan. I don't fucking know.
With Chinese stuff, your guess is as good as mine, really.
Eastern philosophy from her seeks to learn invisibility and strength. But she can mainly foretell his future. And
she's like a diviner, like a divination kind of shit.
That type of person, yeah. So this ends up pissing off her current pupil, or did I get it wrong? Maybe Shao La is the woman, and anyways, it's been a while since I read this shit. Read Legends of the Dark Knight.
It's one of those guys.
It's one of those people. I'm getting these mentors mixed up. But this pisses off the pupil named Dragon. Of course, that's his name. Dragon, who swears revenge on Bruce and...
A white guy, right?
No, Dragon actually is Asian.
Oh, okay.
And Dragon becomes a villain in the present-day story of that storyline. So I'd like to think that this storyline was kind of inspirational for the Kyodai Ken storyline, because we get yet another, like, pupil who gets pissed off by this American man who has been learned by shit. So Bruce then goes to learn from a man named the Rana Butra about inner peace. And
sounds of Indian descent.
Yes, I think that's where it is. So he goes there and he walks down. When he leaves his training with it, he walks down and encounters the Rana Butra's daughter with a very familiar-looking, tall, Midwestern-looking man in glasses. And they just kind of look at each other and pass by, and that, of course, man is a young Clark Kent.
Oh, shit.
And this scene is covered in Superman the Odyssey, which is mainly a Superman story, but does have that cameo from Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
Where you see him walking down the steps and is indicated by the shadow who he really is. And the girl the Rana Butra's daughter sort of comments how like she feels a chill.
Shadow ever meet? I guess he has, but ever met Clark Kent?
That's a good question. Actually,
that would be kind of cool to have that interaction.
Yeah.
That's the thing with like comic book characters. You want them all to meet.
Yes.
At some point. I want the Question to meet the Shadow, and like, you know what I mean. Catwoman to meet.
You have a hat. I have a hat too.
Yeah. Joker meets the Shadow. I want all of them to meet the Shadow.
Yes. Okay. So travels outside of Asia. He goes to Nigeria and undergoes a several-month-long course under the tutelage of a nomadic tribe in the Owami Desert. After he's fought a death match in Lagos, Nigeria. He goes through unspeakable tortures, including living inside a tiny orb-shaped hanging cell. And it's during this time that Alfred spends all of his resources trying to find Bruce, and they tries to arrange a phone call with him, but when the phone is given to Bruce, he refuses to speak to him.
Okay.
Because this is Bruce still in his I don't trust people type of phase, and that may also include Alfred. And so Alfred decides to give up hope in trying to find Bruce.
Doesn't even trust Alfred.
Yeah, so this is covered.
That's rough, dude.
Yeah. So this is covered during the 0 Year storyline, is where they have this discussion about that happening. And his uncle Philip ends up sending a paramilitary unit to Nigeria to fetch Bruce, but the entire unit is killed by mine explosions. And this is significant because one of the guys in that unit has the last name Helfern, one of the victims, and his father, Carl Helfern, is the future Dr. Death in 0 Year.
Okay.
So this is, again, stuff affecting Bruce that will later come to bite him in the ass because that'll cause, the birth of a villain.
Okay.
As a final test of all his martial arts training, Bruce, at 24, goes under the name of Banyan and goes to Norway, where this woman called the Queen throws him into the pit. And the pit is where he fights another death match where he defeats dozens of men for 28 hours straight. The Queen sends in all of these men to fight him. I know I've discussed this before.
Why Norway? Is it just another location?
You got to ask Scott Snyder and James Tinian about that.
I like Vikings, man. It's just cool.
It's just cool. But yeah, it's a death match, and they keep sending in more and more. And she's like, the only way you're getting out and surviving is to do what I tell you, which is to kill. And Bruce is like, I refuse to do that. That's why he lasts 28 hours straight. And eventually, she's like, send in more men. And her underlings are like, they refuse to go in.
Okay.
Because they're all afraid. And Bruce collapses, knowing that his time in the pit is done.
Yeah.
And having survived the pit, he decides his fight training is over and he needs to expand his skill set even more. So he goes to Africa.
It's never over.
Learns to use bolas from the cattlemen. Use blow pipes from the Yanomami hunters, I think it's called. This is mentioned in...
He's so international.
Yeah. This is mentioned in Shadow of the Bat #0. He then travels to Australia to learn boomerangs from a man named Lee Collins.
You would have to at this point. Just the batarang so legendary at this point,
Yeah. So Lee Collins...
Even though the batarang, it's almost a misnomer, really. I mean, and maybe in Adam West times it was okay, but like it's more of a shuriken.
Yeah, well...
than it is a boomerang.
When it was first created, it was supposed to come back to him.
Yeah, right?
In the Gardner Fox story where he first fought the monk, where it was introduced, and it was called Batarang.
And there's not really like a great, you couldn't say like Bat-Ricken or something, you know, like it doesn't really work as well as Batarang does, you know.
True.
So I guess it's just that name just sticks.
Mm-hmm. True. I think it started out as the boomerang. Remember, that still came from the Shadow because he had a boomerang. But this idea of Lee Collins training him in Batarang does come from Detective Comics number 244, where Batman in his early days was tracking down a criminal, and Lee Collins was this showman who with the boomerang, who threw a boomerang and distracted the dude. Yeah. And Batman was indebted to him and decided to learn the boomerang from this guy. And as a present, Collins gave him the first Batarang.
Okay.
So that is in the comics, but I'm recontextualizing it to happen before Batman even exists because it makes more sense that way.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So he goes to North Africa to learn from the ghost tribes of the Ten-Eyed Brotherhood of the Empty Quarter. This is covered in 52, the storyline 52, which introduced Batwoman, the Kathy Kane version, or Kate Kane version, I mean. 52, number 30. He goes there and he does it to learn to defeat his inner demons. They say that you will learn to conquer your demons. We will cut them out of you, and you will learn to survive without them, or you will die.
Okay.
And this almost cost him his life, and they teach him a little bit more about becoming invisible. Later, he goes back to India, it seems, because the Rana Butra has died. And the new Rana Butra is his daughter, who he briefly met, but they are under attack from the immortal Vandal Savage.
Okay.
And he has to team up with the Rana Butra's daughter's friend, this American in glasses, who seems to have the power to, be more powerful than a locomotive and leap tall buildings in a single bound. So
how does he do it?
Bruce uses his training to help out and ends up using bats as a psychological weapon against Vandal Savage's men, as well as sees the advantages of working with a partner. So this is the first team up between Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent. They're just older and don't quite recognize each other from their Smallville days because I'm combining everything into the same canon.
Right.
And this is from Superman number 710.
Eat your heart out, Grant Morrison.
Yes. The Ducards are next. So at this point, Bruce is 27 years old, and he's like, I already know how to fight.
Yeah.
I know different weapons. I need to learn more about being a detective. So he goes to Paris and decides to track down the greatest detective and bounty hunter there is, a man named Henri Ducard.
Okay.
Now, Ducard is the alias of Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins, but he's a separate character in the comics.
Okay.
Who also is apparently the disguise of the Shadow, according to that Shadow Batman crossover, as I brought up.
Right.
So in some cases, maybe it's the real Ducard. In other cases, it might actually be the Shadow.
Okay.
But the Ducard is definitely cited to be the Shadow in that crossover. There's also the reason why I bring up the real Ducard having some sort of role is because there's another story called Born to Kill. It's in the New 52 version of Batman and Robin. Issues 5 to 6 have the actual period of time, have the flashbacks. But Henri Ducard has a son who wasn't originally introduced when Ducard was first introduced in the Sam Hamm storyline. His son Morgan is kind of the one who is the son who gets shat on while Bruce becomes the new replacement son. So there's always this rivalry between the two of them. Like Ducard pits his son against Bruce in a fight, and of course Bruce defeats him, and that earns the right to train with them. And during this training, they go to scour the globe. They go to the jungles, the deserts, the Middle East to search for this international terrorist. In the original storyline, his name was Jeremiah. In the new version, his name is Hassan. So I'm just going to call him Jeremiah Hassan. But he ends up teaching him valuable lessons about detective work, fugitive hunting, tracking, gathering information, how to think like a criminal to catch one, brutality, different field craft techniques. But during this time, they find Hassan or Jeremiah,
right?
And Henri Ducard assassinates him.
Oh shit!
And Bruce realizes that this guy isn't just a detective; he's an assassin. He's a mercenary.
Yeah.
And that crosses the line that he vowed not to go on. So Bruce storms off angrily, and Henri Ducard turns to his son and says, "Kill him."
Okay.
So he sends Morgan Ducard to London to kill Bruce, and Bruce beats the ever-loving shit out of him.
Right.
And returns him to Paris and is like, don't ever come back to me again.
Okay.
Because this is what I did to your son. I fucked up your son. I will fuck you up too.
Okay.
So both Ducard and his son will turn into future antagonists for Batman, or future like anti-heroes who he begrudgingly teams up with. Morgan Ducard himself takes on the supervillain named Nobody in the Batman and Robin storyline Born to Kill, where he decides to take his revenge on Bruce by trying to corrupt Bruce's son, Damian.
He's already kind of corrupt, right?
Well, because he had the training under the League of Assassins, but he sort of poses himself as like, your father doesn't actually know how it's done.
Okay. Right.
Can be your real father. I can be the one to appeal to the side of yourself that you've been denied due to your actual father. So around this time, Bruce realizes he's trained with every great master except one, another bounty hunter named Willie Doggett. So this is covered in storyline called in Legend of the Dark Knight #1 called Shaman. And during this time, he is basically trying to track a killer named Thomas Woodley. And during the time, they're using different manhunting and survival techniques, but Willie Doggett is murdered by Thomas Woodley during this time.
Okay.
And Bruce has to fight off Woodley and believes that he has Woodley ends up accidentally falling off the mountain, and Bruce thinks that he's dead, but of course, once again, Woodley will come back later on.
Okay.
But Bruce gets lost in the mountains and ends up collapsing, where he is saved by a shaman and his granddaughter. And the shaman links Bruce to a Native American myth of the bat. Again, this imagery of the bat constantly following him. And says that he has basically been marked by this totem.
And it's like, do you think these kind of characters, the kind of type that like sense things about people?
Yeah.
Sees their like inner psyche or whatever.
Yeah.
So one of the things I just thought now was like maybe the Native American, this is a shaman type guy.
Yes.
He senses the inner bat in him, like a
yes.
I know the term spirit animal's thrown around a lot these days, and maybe there's some cultural appropriation going on there, but this is a Native American guy in this story,
yes,
that maybe sees a spirit animal in Bruce.
Yeah, potentially, yes. I mean, is it really here's my rant about it as a minority. I'm just like, is it really cultural appropriation if he is honoring and learning from all these people who are the experts?
I agree with that as well.
That is not offensive. Like, if I see a white guy in a gi in a martial arts studio, that's not cultural appropriation to me. That is him honoring the actual thing.
Yeah.
Him dishonoring it would be like, fuck this kung fu shit in the stupid gi.
Yeah.
I'm out of here, or like, I'm trying to teach my own shit. Like that's. To me, that's the disrespect.
Yeah.
But just being white, just because he happened to be that way?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think I brought that up because I've seen on Twitter or something where like Native American people were saying nothing to do with the comics or anything. Yeah. More about just people just willy-nilly using the phrase, that's my spirit animal.
I see. Okay.
And just kind of using that a little bit too casually, which I get it. Yeah. I personally, I don't even fucking say it that much anyway.
Yeah.
If ever.
Yeah. Same.
So, whatever. But sometimes the cultural appropriation argument.
Yeah.
Needs. I don't know. In my opinion, how do I say this gingerly for the podcast? It's maybe a deeper conversation than even the left is thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Anyway, moving on.
Let's see. Oh, yes, the shaman. So the shaman at some point brings Bruce to New Mexico to hone his wisdom and learn to trust his instincts in tracking and hunting techniques. So this is actually in the Bronze Age, in the 70s, Detective Comics 449, where Bruce mentions having to learn from a shaman in New Mexico. So I kind of combined them into the same shaman here.
Okay.
And then finally, at some point, Bruce winds up in an Asian prison where he is finally recruited to the League of Assassins by Ra's al Ghul. So
finally, we made it, everybody.
We finally made it. This is only in the Nolan movie, Batman Begins. Ra's al Ghul has actually never trained Batman in any of the comics.
Yeah.
With one exception, which is after Batman Begins, where Max Landis wrote it in American Alien #3, where Bruce
that's after Batman Begins, though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's afterwards, so it's inspired by the movie. But Roz is shown trying to basically in the mountains with Bruce. Bruce having named his League of Assassins name is apparently Man of Bats in American Alien #3.
Okay.
And Roz ends up telling him about like, hey, like there's this incident where and it ties into Clark Kent, of course.
Okay.
Because it's about Superman. So I'm not going to get too much into that. But, of course, as we saw in Batman Begins, he's taught refined fighting skills, he's taught swords, he's taught explosive powders, invisibility, theatricality, and deception, the psychology of fear. But, of course, it's Bruce's refusal to kill that causes him to escape from the League of Assassins, who, in the Batman Begins continuity, will immediately then try to attack Gotham.
Okay.
Bruce goes to Gotham and becomes Batman, and the main training that I find with Batman when he's already in the cowl is in The Brave and the Bold.
Okay.
So in The Brave and the Bold, there is an episode called The Golden Age of Justice that establishes that Batman in his early days actually underwent training in how to be a costume crime fighter from the Justice Society of America.
Okay.
So he's trained in it by Jay Garrick, the Jay Garrick Flash,
Right.
Wildcat again, Dr. Midnight, and Hourman. And
somebody teach him how to fight with a cape.
yeah, I would think that Dr. Midnight and Hourman would help him out with that.
Honestly, I mean, the cape, I mean, not that it would be too practical in real life, but at least with comic book fighting logic or whatever,
Yeah.
choking somebody out with the cape,
Yeah.
using the cape to grab people's hands,
Mhm.
like a trap kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's actually probably some tactical shit you could do with it, more
Yeah.
than what we just saw in the Year One comic. That was just one instance, but there's got to be...
Oh, you mean the Earth one?
I mean, Earth One, yeah. Earth One shit,
Mhm.
yeah. I think that there's probably some other... like, there's got to be other tactical maneuvers with the cape.
Yeah. Yeah, so he probably does learn from it. There is a cool tie-in comic from The Brave and the Bold, tie-in comic #7 by Charlie Fish called Shadows and Light, where that reveals how Batman was recruited into the JSA in the first place, where in the comics they established that the Alan Scott Green Lantern was actually the protector of Gotham before Batman. And that's kind of a
Okay.
nice tribute to the fact that the Alan Scott Green Lantern was created by Bill Finger as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
So he has a confrontation with Batman being like, I've tried for years to bring Gotham into the light, and you're just bringing it back into darkness. And
Yeah.
Batman's response is like, you were out there fighting all the supervillains. Who was watching the streets?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
you weren't around when my parents were killed.
Yeah.
So they end up teaming up, and Alan Scott sees the value of Batman, just as Batman sees the value of teamwork, of course, and being more than just a guy who beats up criminals.
Right.
So Alan Scott's like, let me introduce you to some friends. And
Okay.
that's when he introduces him to Jay Garrick, Wildcat, Dr. Midnight, Hourman, all those JSA characters, as well as their fellow recruit, the second Black Canary, Dinah Lance. So that's all established in that issue, and then ties into the Golden Age of Justice episode that establishes it. Also, apparently, at some point, he learned archery from Oliver Queen.
Sweet.
That's revealed in apparently Green Arrow #134.
You'd have to.
Yeah. So
I
that
don't know when he'd use the bat bow, but hey, sounds
No,
good to me.
Not often. So
Yeah.
we finally made it. Bruce Wayne is Batman now. He's fighting crime. He's learned from 500 different mentors. His body has
Yeah.
gone through hell, and he hasn't
Yeah.
even started fighting the Joker yet.
2 hours of sleep, heals himself mid-fight.
Thanks to all these tactics. And that brings us to the end of all of Bruce Wayne's training. Everything that I could find, right down to Lego Batman direct-to-video
Right.
movies.
Madam Mantis.
And Madam Mantis and all that ridiculousness. I've tried to recontextualize everything, even bringing in the Shadow training him, because I love that. What did you think
would
now
need
that you
that.
have the whole story?
If you are a listener of this here podcast, you know that I do enjoy a training montage.
Oh, this is more than a montage.
Yeah. And like, I want a whole show. Okay, to make it easy for everybody, whenever in Batman Begins, he goes to the fucking Tibet or wherever that is, the Blue Flower and all that.
Yeah.
I need a whole show of Batman traveling Asia, of
Yes.
Bruce Wayne. I need a show after most of Gotham, before Batman, traveling Asia. Kung Fu the legend continues, but not just China, or Kung Fu is in America. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I need that show.
Yeah.
That's the show we need right now. This show that you just pitched, or this.
I just pitched you the entire 10 seasons.
This is
20
seasons. This is like a 10 seasons fucking thing. But yeah, I mean, I know we've had like a lot of Batman but no Batman kind of show with Gotham, but this would be a very like martial arts, even Western martial arts as well, oriented show. So that there's definitely something to do there. And like, other than what do you call it, Into the Badlands on FX, there's not
AMC,
a whole.
I think, but yeah,
there's not a whole lot of like martial arts shows going on right now. A lot of shows have martial arts in them.
Yeah.
But there's no like martial arts show going on right now because the last one was the Marvel one. That was a big one.
Oh, you mean the Iron Fist?
Western made.
Yeah,
Iron Fist.
That was panned.
And that wasn't that great.
So,
I mean, other than that, I can't. I mean, look, right now, The Witcher, that first episode has some amazing fencing in it, like Western style sword fighting. I thought that was incredible. But as far as like, especially like Eastern martial arts stuff, of course, Ip Man 4 I think just came out and shit. But I don't know. It just seems like maybe there's like a cultural appropriation thing against that or something, and that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, but it would also kind of be about like it's a rich white man who goes out to expose himself to the rest of the world to see like what else is out there.
How should a white guy operate in these conditions? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
not how do I say this? Not be insulting to the viewer, I guess. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's hard to say.
There's an element
correctly.
of that, but I mean, my argument, of course, is what I said before, where it's just like it's a respect to learn from the best, as opposed to thinking that you don't need to do. Like it's more disrespectful to me to be like, oh, I don't need to do that shit. I just need to learn everything I need to know here from other white guys. Like that's to me more offensive than going literally to China to learn this great martial art.
It's almost like saying nobody from any other cultures have anything worth learning, or it's like the whole cultural appropriation argument. Again, everybody, I'm pretty much left wing, but I know I'm sounding right wing to maybe some of the listeners, but like it's just. Sometimes that argument feels a little bit like they want everybody should stick to their own culture. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. And I'm just like, how is that, and where's that going to lead to?
Yeah.
You're going to have...
segregation again?
Right, yeah, like, exactly. You're going to have all the people who fought for segregation just rolling in their graves because somebody thought that you serving tacos on the commissary on the studio lot is somehow offensive.
Right.
So... Anyway, cultural appropriation and Bruce Wayne. Obviously,
we didn't want to get too political, but
if you're a real person, which you are because you're listening to this, you probably are like, I can't do this shit if I wanted to be Batman. I can't go off and seek out Chu Chin Lee and the League of Assassins because they don't exist. So what does a person do if he wants to at least get some of these skills? Well, of course, you'd have to.
You have like real links ready for us, bro?
Well, no, I'm just bringing up like the fact that. You can still, if you're interested in this, go out and do martial arts. You can still go out and find teachers. You probably don't have the money to go out literally to China and Thailand and Egypt and get locked into the Sphinx and try to do an escape room thing over there. But you can go to escape rooms and figure out your engineering to there. So the world has kind of been built even further and further along to the back to make it easier for you to do that. I think I saw that Robert Pattinson is doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Which that is interesting. This is maybe another tangent, but like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as Batman. So are we going to see Batman get into a ground fight?
Yeah, that's another thing.
We've never really seen this in any of the movies or shows, right? So that'll be kind of a cool new territory.
It could be, but also, in my opinion, like a ground fight is not that interesting to watch, in my opinion. But I mean, it depends on how it's shot.
It depends on how it's shot. I mean, especially with a cape involved too.
Yeah, I'm just like
how does that happen?
It feels complicated. Yeah,
unless it's like a quick like arm bar kind of thing or something like that. Like it's kind of easy to understand. I mean, UFC is definitely more popular than it's ever been, so I get that, but yeah, I don't know. It'll depend, and like maybe he throws a smoke bomb in the middle of the fight, in the middle of a lock or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So we'll see. I think he's trying to get some fight training in, but
Maybe that's his own on his own accord too.
It could,
you know?
yeah, it could be.
It's
as
kind of
well.
it's still early.
Yeah, exactly. So it's potential, but maybe he just wants to get a baseline just so they can get the character.
Yeah.
You know, so there's that. There's also different. I always kind of like to speculate in terms of like what books could he have read about.
Yeah.
So like there's all the classics of strategy. There's The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Yeah.
Which is quoted in Titans. So that version at least does it. Machiavelli is also honored in Titans. So Machiavelli is the prince. Is a good one as long as you can recontextualize these things to today. And then I just started Musashi's Book of Five Rings, which I think is a lot even better to translate to today, because a lot of Art of War is very much about like Chinese war at the time, and the Prince is very much about Italy at the time. But Book of Five Rings, I'm just like, this is so focused on fighting stuff. There's not a lot in it that feels like it's of its time.
It's just human.
It's just
fighting.
being a human being and how to fight, and that's what I appreciate about it. So I would say those three are guaranteed to be in Bruce Wayne's library.
There's another one too. There's a lot of those kind of books like Hagakure and shit, but there's also one called The Life-Giving Sword. I haven't read that one yet, but it's just such a fucking cool name. Again, that almost sounds a little bit right wing, but
The Life-Giving Sword.
Like the gun will protect the life. I don't know. Anyway, if you were recontextualize that to today,
well,
then again,
the Batman view of it is like you are trying to turn yourself into a weapon in order to protect yourself and other people.
Yeah, right.
Not to harm innocent people, but to protect them.
Right, for sure.
So that's how I would recontextualize or reframe that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's how you would do it.
Mm-hmm.
I got to read those books, man.
I'll add that one to my list too.
Yeah.
So that is the long education of Bruce Wayne. I hope you guys enjoy it. Please go out and read the actual books, because this was just a summary, and there's a lot of other details and stories that I didn't go as in depth about because we only have a few minutes time for these things. But I hope you enjoyed it, and now we are ready to go into Batman Begins.
Finally,
actually nice.
Finally, now you're ready, audience.
Context.
We trained you as much as Batman has trained himself.
To lead up, we went over the Great Bat Hiatus. We went over the actual training in the comics, some of which happened after the movie, but whatever. That'll at least help out when we go into the comic book version versus the movie.
I am excited about that. Is that pretty much it?
That is pretty much it. So please hit us up on Instagram. We are SuperHousePod on there, where at this point you will probably end up seeing some comic book panels that deal with the training that I'll put on there. I am Ben Juan Ryder on Instagram, and you are?
I am Thunderwolf Drew on Instagram and Twitter. And Ben heads up the SuperHouse Pod Instagram. Mm-hmm. And shout out to Shasta. Please go to patreon.com/SuperHousePodcast and join the Shasta Army for just $1 a month. And shout out to Kooky Noms, Matt Herring. And that might be it for right now. Mm-hmm. And SuperHousePodcast.com, or SuperHousePod.com, rather. You can email us at SuperHousePodcast@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or a comment in the iTunes store. Also on Spotify, of course. And I think that might be it. We're on all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Mm-hmm. Most active on Instagram, however. And that might be it.
Cool. I think so, too. So we will see you next time for the actual Batman Begins.
Welcome to 2020. Andrew signing off.
Ben signing off.